everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and this is Stitched Up. So today is part 2 of my April makes, and yeah, I decided to split April's makes into 2 parts because I made a lot of things in April. So part 1 I will link to down below, which includes all the separates that I made in April, and this vlog is going to be dresses and jumpsuits, of which there are many. So without any more hesitation, let's get started. So the first thing that I am wearing is my Sew Over It Eve dress, and this is a dress pattern that I got from the lovely Shan from Kittenish Behaviour as part of her KB Patterns swap, probably a couple of summers ago now. And yeah, the original person that I was paired with unfortunately didn't respond to any of my messages, so I ended up without a partner. So Shan very kindly offered to step in and be my partner, which was lovely. So she sent me the Eve dress, and it was a pattern that I'd seen and that I knew was exactly my kind of style. But I must say I have had difficulties with it. And the things that have been the issues mainly have been the sizing. I do think it's very oversized, and I know that I'm not the first person to say that. And I started off, I think, with a size 12 bodice and 14 skirt, and I just could never get it to fit right. I have a very hollow chest. I'm very slim around my shoulders and in my chest, and although the wrap style really suits me, it's always really difficult to get the wrap to actually hug my chest because I'm so slim here. And even though I stay stitched the neckline on my previous versions, and on top of that also used stay tape, etc., I could still never get the neckline to lie flat and hug my body. On top of that, I also had a lot of extra ease in the sides here as well, even in the size 12. So when I was down at the KB Sewing Retreat last October, Shan allowed me to try on some of her Eve dresses, and what I discovered was that the size 10 bodice fit me. Although I didn't have much coverage at front, I needed to do a full bust adjustment, so that's exactly what I've done, and it's worked. And I've never done a full bust adjustment before because I've never had to. I'm generally, well, I'm a little bit bigger at the minute than what I normally am, but I'm generally around a B cup. So yeah, it's not something that I've ever needed to do before, but I did do a full bust adjustment in this bodice and used the size 10 bodice, and it's worked perfectly. So yeah, you can see that. I mean, this fabric is lovely. This was a cheap peach skin that I got from Colville Fabrics a few weeks ago. I've done the flutter sleeve because I just really like this sleeve, and this is the 3rd version of the Eve that I've actually made now. I will put some better pictures in of me wearing this so that you can see full length what it looks like, but I love it. It's really lovely. You know, it's nice and floaty, it's very feminine, very girly, which is not usually the kind of look I go for, but I do really love this dress, and now that I've got the bodice to fit me, really happy with it. So yeah, I am planning to do a separate little tutorial on how to do a full bust adjustment on a wrap front so that you can totally eliminate a dart as well. So watch out for that coming up. And yeah, really pleased with this dress. So that's my first make. Next up is, it's been a bit of a sew over it month, to be honest. Next up is the penny dress, and this is a dress that I have made before, but it's sat in my stash unhemmed for about 2.5 years, and I finally got around to hemming it. I think that was either at the beginning of April or at the end of March, and I absolutely love that dress now. I think what put me off hemming it was because it's got a big circle skirt on it, and you know, there's just acres of hem, isn't there, with a circle skirt. But now I've got used to using my blind hem foot on my sewing machine. It's great. So because I don't like normal stitched hems on dresses unless it's a very sort of utilitarian type dress, I think, you know, your hems need to be invisible really. But anyway, and I don't mind hand hemming, but on something like a massive dress, I don't want to be sat hand hemming it forever. Anyway, I'm waffling. As soon as I'd finished hemming that dress that had sat in my unfinished objects pile for a couple of years, I whipped up another one, and this is it here. It's really lovely. It's this beautiful viscose that I got from Oh So Crafty. I'm not sure if they have this in stock anymore, but if they have, I will link to it down below. And I love this style. I'm really quite keen to make a blouse I know that So Over It do have a tutorial for that on their blog somewhere, so I'm probably going to have a go at that at some point and just make a blouse from the penny dress. But it has some gentle gathers just around the shoulder line here, a little yoke at the shoulder. Obviously it's got a notched collar, button up front, which are proper buttons and buttonholes, a elasticated waist, and then big circle skirt as well. It's very sort of vintagey and I love it. I really love it. I think it's girly, but it's also, you know, I can wear this with, you know, my Converses as well, and I think that will look just as good. I used thicker elastic in the waistband because what I found is that if I use deeper elastic, I just think it cinches me in and it looks better than the thinner elastic that tends to give you a bit of a muffin top. So I'm really pleased with how this has come out. This is hemmed, you will be pleased to hear. It did sit on my mannequin for a good 2.5 weeks of April before I got around to hemming it, but I was determined that this one wasn't going to take 2 years being sat around waiting to be hemmed, and I've got it hemmed, so now I can wear it and I love it. So I'll put a picture in again of me wearing this for you to have a look at, and yeah, second dress of April. So moving on, this is another dress that I have made before and wanted to have another go at it because it is a dress that I reach for every summer. And it's not one that you see very often, but it is a really, really lovely make, and it's fairly quick to do as well. It's the named Delfy dress, which I will put a picture of the pattern here. And I made it in this lovely t-shirt jersey that I got from Colville Fabrics last summer. I don't think they have this now, but it was really, really reasonable, and I wanted to make this. It's designed as a maxi dress with obviously a flounce over the front bodice, but I didn't want to make this full maxi length on this occasion. I have made it previously in orange, an orange jersey that I got from the textile centre, but for this one I decided I was going to make it midi length, and otherwise I made no other changes to the pattern. Named patterns are designed for a taller woman anyway, around about 5'10", so I generally don't have to alter their patterns, which is just brilliant. So but it's lovely, it's really nice. It's got this gentle sort of v-neck front with a back with a little crossover strap, as you can see there, and it's bias bound. The straps actually are just bias binding that you make out of the self fabric, and you know, stitch it to the bodice all the way around. Again, this has an elasticated waist. If I can just lift the bodice up, has an elasticated waist and just a gentle skirt that just skims your body, and I love it. I really love it. It's a gorgeous dress. It's nice to throw on warm sunny days, and but you know, you can look quite smart in it as well. But it's actually really, really quick make. Instructions on this are really good. It's drafted really well. It fits me really well, and I'm definitely going to make more of these. In fact, I can't believe it's taken me 4 years since I made the last one to have another go at this. So really, really happy with that one. Next up is another pattern that I have revisited after not making it for about 3 years, and it is the M6696 by McCall's, which is a bit of an iconic shirt dress pattern. You'll see loads of them if you Google the pattern number. You'll see loads of people that have made this dress before. I've made a couple of versions of this before. It comes in either a fitted skirt or a wider skirt, and it's lovely. It's just a lovely shirt dress. So I did make a few alterations to this pattern. This is a gorgeous fabric that I think I got from Like So Amazing. I think it's a Lady McElroy print, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's gorgeous. I really, really, really like this fabric. It's a cotton lawn, so lovely and light for warm sunny days. I made the sleeveless version, and the armholes are bound with bias binding, which I made out of the same fabric. It has a yoke on the back, and the inside yoke is I made 2 of the yolks so that I could burrito it. So that looks nice and neat on the inside. It has a lovely wide waistband with little belt loops attached, and all that is nice and neatly encased and enclosed inside as well. I've made this version with the wider skirt. These buttons I got from Walton's. I think they were about 3p each. They were very cheap, and they were in my stash, and they go really well with this fabric. And I love this dress, it's beautiful. The other alterations I made to this was that the original pattern has lots of gathering in the back bodice at the waistline and at the yoke at the top, and I altered the patterns to omit that, so I had a flat back. Now it has ended up where I've got a little bit of pooling in my back because I think I needed to well, originally I thought what I needed to do was a sway back adjustment, but I've since discovered actually that because of the gathering that was in the original back pattern piece, that it means that the back pattern piece is slightly longer than the front, and I didn't take that into account when I removed the gathering out of the pattern. So I need to just raise the back slightly so that it removes the pooling in the back. But otherwise, I did lengthen the bodice by about 1 inch, which I do on all my patterns with me being so tall. I also lengthened the skirt by 2 inches as well. But it's lovely, really love this dress. It's got a real sort of safari feel to it for me. And yeah, I've worn it a few times already, and I'm sure I'll get lots more wear out of it this summer. So moving on, this was actually the first dress that I made in April, and it's one that I have had in my stash for a few months now, but haven't made up yet, but have been meaning to. And I actually bought this pattern based on seeing the lovely Eileen's version that she wore to the KB sewing retreat. I can't remember whether that was in May or October that she wore it, but it was a beautiful dress. I wish I'd taken a picture of it to show you. And she told me it was the Mayfair dress by Nina Lee Patterns. So I bought the pattern, and yeah, it sat in my stash for a while, but I finally got round to making it. And I've made it, this is my version here. I made it out of this gorgeous tropical jersey that I got from Colville, mainly to use as a toile. And it's lovely. It has a really lovely pleating detail around the front neckline, which goes all the way around to the back into a little seam at the back, and it creates this lovely sort of draping feature across the front bodice, which is really pretty. I've made the full maxi length version with the very short cap sleeves. It also has a belt which is stitched into the front waistline, and then you can tie it around your back or at the side, however you want really. I haven't got any pockets in this dress, but that doesn't bother me whatsoever. I've made this full length. It's beautiful, I love it. Worn it a few times already. I love this print so much because it's exactly the kind of print that I like to go for. And it's just lovely, really lovely. So again, I will put some pictures in of me wearing this dress. It definitely will not be the last version I made. The pattern instructions were easy to follow, I would say. There was a couple of little steps, especially getting this pattern piece right. You know, you do need to read them carefully and process the information that she's telling you, but it was straightforward. And otherwise, yeah, beautiful, beautiful dress. Really, really happy with this one. And the last dress that I made in April is another pattern that I've had for ages. It's another sew over it pattern, and I bought it on the PDF, and it's been sat printed but not even taped together in my stash for ages. And I've wanted to make it for a while, and it's the Doris dress by Sew Over It. So I had this fabric in my stash for ages from the Textile Centre, which was a really cheap sort of viscose crepe fabric. Sorry, crepe georgette fabric, I think it is. And yeah, this is it here. It's a beautiful dress. I absolutely love it. I love this fabric. I think it's perfect for the Doris. This dress takes a lot of fabric, just be warned. I had 3 meters of this, and I would say it is only just long enough for me. I made the size 12, but what I actually did was, because my body measurements put me between a size 12 and a 14 in this pattern, and what I decided to do was go down to the 12 but make a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance rather than 5/8 of an inch, and that's worked really well. It gives me enough wearable ease in the bodice, but isn't overly big. It's a little bit gapey around the front, I would say, but again, that's because, as I've mentioned, I've got a really narrow chest at the top, and it's just really pretty. Now this dress has a invisible zip in the side seam just under the arm there. Not sure if you can see that. It has lovely straps on the back which are stitched into the back seam, one of the back seams just there, which ties at the back. It has buttons and buttonholes down the front just there. Hopefully you can see that if it's not too bleached out. These buttons were just buttons that I had in my stash that were some of my husband's buttons from his old work shirt, which I always use because they go really well. Yeah, you don't actually need to make the front button band usable. You can just, you know, if buttonholes frighten you, which I know they do a lot of people, and they do me sometimes, you can just stitch the buttons straight onto the front bodice and make it so that it's just a design feature rather than an actual usable button band, because you've got that side zip there. That's, you know, the way in and out of the dress essentially. Now the reason this takes so much fabric is because of the skirt. Each of these skirt pieces, there are about 8 panels in total, and they are trumpet shaped. And I lengthened the skirt by 2.5 inches. I also lengthened the bodice by 1 inch as well. And the resulting dress still ended up only just below my knee. And I would have preferred it at least another 1.5 inches longer. So I used a full 3 meters of fabric, mainly to get all these skirt panels on as well. And bearing in mind that this fabric is a non-directional print as well, if you are using a directional print, you are going to need a lot of fabric for this dress. So that's just something to bear in mind. The hem, I have hemmed just using a very narrow hem, using my narrow hem foot on my sewing machine, which has worked really well in this fabric. And the main reason I did that again was because, I mean, obviously it works well on this fabric, but also because I knew that I didn't want to lose any more length, because once I put this together, it was going to be very obvious it wasn't going to be as long as what I expected it to be. That's the main reason I made a narrow hem. But the fabric choice, it works well for that. So what else can I tell you? It's got a little facing around the top, which I have just stitched in at the shoulder seams, but it does lie flat, to be honest. It's fine. The facing goes right into the front button band as well, so it's quite neat inside. I haven't French seamed this. If I was making this again in this kind of fabric, I think a French seam on the inside would look fabulous. It would make it much neater, but because I was using a much narrower seam allowance, I didn't want to lose any more width in the pattern really. So because obviously I knew that I was going down a slightly smaller size, didn't want it to be too tight. You have little pleats in, yeah, there's a couple of little pleats just in the bottom of the bodice here that allow room for the old boobage, and yeah, it's beautiful dress. I'm definitely going to make this again. I've already got fabrics allocated for this dress because I really like it. And yeah, I know a lot of people, there seem to be a lot of people that are in two minds about sew over it patterns. There are some people that either they just have real problems with the fit, you know, and some people that love them. I'm in the camp that loves them, I'll be honest. I never have a problem with the fit, apart from obviously the Eve dress, which we've just discussed. But that's an issue I have with all wrap dress patterns, not just this particular one. So most other sew over it patterns fit me straight out of the packet with very little alteration, apart from lengthening, which I have to do with most patterns anyway. So yeah, love this dress, really love it. I think out of all of the dresses that I have made in April, this is probably my favourite, even above the Eve dress. So that's all the dresses. Moving on to rompers and jumpsuits. The first one that I am going to show you is two versions of the same pattern, and this is M6083. I will put a picture of that up here. It's an old pattern now. I've had this in my stash quite a few years, and I don't think you will. You might be able to get it on eBay or Etsy, but you can't buy it from the major outlets anymore because it's out of print. But it's a lovely jersey jumpsuit pattern with a wrap bodice. It's got some lovely gathering in the shoulder seams, and there's lots of different options with this pattern, as you can see. Now, the only issue I have with this pattern is that when I've made this time, I've lost the pattern envelope. I've no idea where it went. I'm pretty sure that I must have just thrown it out, which is really a real shame. So I really need to take more care, don't I? But anyway, this is the first jumpsuit that I've made. I have made this before. I made it in black and I took it with me to the KB sewing retreat last summer. And yeah, I bought this pattern originally in the larger pattern size because I thought they were UK sizing, and it obviously, the McCall's patterns and the big 4 patterns are sized, the sizes equate to US sizing, not UK sizing. So I ended up buying the bigger size, which did create a few issues. It's meant that because it starts at size 14, which is a US 14 and not a UK, it meant that I did need to take the bodice in quite substantially to get it to fit me. But it's worked really well. Again, this fabric is a cheap jersey that I got from Colville. I love it. It's really vibrant. I think it's gorgeous as a tropical jumpsuit for holidays. As I say, it has a little bit of gathering just at the shoulder seam, just there. I don't know if you can see that very well. It has a wrap front, which is faced and interfaced on the facing, and that actually works really well to get it to lay nice and flat. I've put the nice deep 1.5 inch elastic in the waistband. Has pockets in the trousers at the side as well, but they're not side seam pockets. They do have a nice little curve there, so at least you know, if you've got larger hips like me and you don't want to draw attention to them, these kind of pockets work better. And the legs are a wide leg trouser. And other alterations I made to this pattern, I lengthened the bodice by 1 inch, my standard bodice length adjustment that I make, and I also altered the crotch depth by 1 inch as well, with it being a jumpsuit, just to give me that extra length. But I love this jumpsuit. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, really comfortable to wear. It's nice and airy with it being in this lovely cotton lightweight jersey, and that print is just amazing, isn't it? So yeah, again, I'll put some pictures of me wearing this. As soon as I'd finished that, we were going through an unseasonably warm spell in April, which is not what we normally have in the UK at that time of year. And so as soon as I'd made that, I decided to make another version of the same pattern, which is the little strapless romper, because I thought that would be great for just wearing round and about in the garden. Just went in rooting about in my stash for some black jersey, which is this here. So this was very, very simple to put together. I'm trying to get it the right way around to show you. Yeah, that's the front. So obviously black is difficult to show, isn't it? But that's the front. It was really simple. It was basically a couple of pattern pieces for the bodice with a casing for the elastic at the top. Again, elastic for the waist, little pockets in the side seams, and then made just the shorts. So took very little fabric, very quick and easy to do. I think I had this whipped up in about an hour, and I wear this a lot around the house when it's hot, which we've had quite a few hot days so far this year. So so yeah, perfect just for in the garden and for, you know, taking on holiday as well. So they were the first 2 jumpsuits that I made in April. Next up, I had a little bit of a fail, which isn't quite finished, and I have had the Holly jumpsuit by Hand London in my stash for a number of years now, and I bought that pattern when it came out because I really liked it, but I was hesitant to make it mainly because their patterns generally aren't drafted for a curvy figure like mine. And I knew, especially with my skills at the time, that getting the trousers to fit me would probably be nigh on impossible. Anyway, as time has gone by and my skills have improved a little bit, I decided that I would have a go at this pattern, and I did, and it hasn't been a total success. This is it here. So what you've got with the Holly is you've got 2 versions of the bodice top. You can either make one with a short sleeve and a scoop neck, or you can make a strappy version with a little cowl at the top, which is the version I made. So these are the straps here, which are essentially it's just like bias binding that you make, and you've got little pleats at the edge of the bodice both sides, which create that lovely sort of drapiness of the front cowl. Now the straps aren't finished yet, as you can see. You have a invisible zip in the side. I know mine's not invisible because I've just basted it in. we'll come to that in a minute. And yeah, the back bodice is very fitted, there's very little ease in it. You've got, obviously the back is in 3 panels, as you can see, and then it goes out into a really lovely wide leg pant. Now, this pattern fits me fantastic on the top. I made the size 12 top and 12 waist, and it fits me really well. The trousers, not so much. I graded from a 12 waist to, I think, 16 trouser, and it's just really tight across my hips. And that's just with the zip basted in, as you can see. Once that zip is fully fitted in, it's going to be even tighter. So currently this isn't wearable. Now, fabric wise, I have this lovely crepe fabric in my stash, which is just gorgeous, and this is again a Colville fabric, which was really cheap, which was why I used it for this pattern as a, to make sort of a wearable toile. And yeah, it's, I think probably my fabric choice wasn't the best, because this fabric has absolutely no give in it whatsoever. It's, you know, there's no elastane in here, and I think when when you're toiling a pattern, especially with trousers, I mean, this pattern is very fitted around the hips and the waist, and then it flares out into a wide leg. So I didn't really take the fabric into account when I was thinking about that, and I guess really I should have thought a little bit more that a fabric with some give in it would have been a better choice, even for a wearable toile. So at the minute, these are not wearable because I can't even try them on to show you, because they're just too tight across the bum. What it did make me learn though is that I need to learn to do a full butt adjustment, and I have actually already attacked that in May and been successful. So I think the plan with this is I'm not going to finish it off for now. It's going to sit in my UFO pile because I am losing weight and I am toning up, and I think at some point this will fit me. But I would like to revisit this pattern, and I would like to have another go at the trouser part by doing a full butt adjustment on the trousers, and I think then they will fit me fine. So, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, that's how we learn, by attempting patterns and looking at fit, and you know, learning about how to fit our own unique bodies. And I need to do a full butt adjustment. If I'm making trousers that are fitted around the hips, I need to make a full butt adjustment. That is the bottom line. And I think I've always shied away from those kind of adjustments before, because I think the very name of them sends shivers down your spine when you're not very experienced at sewing, because you think it's going to be really complicated and difficult, and actually having had a go at it, it's really not. It's actually quite simple. So yeah, so a bit disappointing. It did put me in a bit of a mood, I'll admit, when I made this, because I really wanted to wear it, and you know, I do really like this fabric. I think it's really pretty, but you know, it's not a disaster. It's put together really well, and I'm hoping, as I say, another half stone of weight and I'll be able to get this on. Right. So moving on to my last make for April, which is the Sofia dungarees by Tilly and the Buttons. And this is a pattern that is in her new book that she recently released, which is called Make It Simple, I think. And I got the book as my freebie for subscribing to Love Sewing magazine. So I had a quick flick through when it came, and this was the first project that I decided to make. I'll put a picture of them here. It's the picture of Tilly on the front of the book. She's wearing the dungarees herself. Now I've decided I wanted to make these out of denim, which isn't actually a recommended fabric. I think she talks more about more lightweight fabrics, but I did have this Lady McElroy denim in my stash that I bought from Sherwood's a while ago. I think with the option of making, I don't know, there was something specific I was going to make with it at the time, and then it's totally gone out of my head, as quite often happens. But this is a really, really gorgeous denim, and it does have a little bit of stretch in it, but I thought it would be lightweight enough to make these dungarees. So here they are. This is obviously the denim here. As I say, it is quite lightweight. It's in a gorgeous, gorgeous deep blue. It washes really well. I've washed this 2 or 3 times now because I've worn these a fair bit, and you know, it still looks like new. It's gorgeous. So the Sofia dungarees have obviously nice wide straps. They have a lovely dart somewhere at the bust, just there, as you can see. And they obviously the bodice then just extends into a wide leg cropped pant now, and the back looks a little bit like that. Now, there are no fastenings on these dungarees, which means that you need to be very careful if you're going to grade between sizes. Now, as we know, my bust and waist are much smaller than my hips, and you know, I'm a pear shape essentially. So I needed to be really careful with this, because if you grade down too much for your waist, remember this is supposed to be a loose fitting garment anyway, but if you grade down to your waist and you've got much larger hips, you will not get these on. That's the thing. So you could remedy that, I guess, by inserting an invisible zip and making them very fitted to your bust and your waist, but that isn't the design of this pattern. It is designed to be loose. So I can't remember exactly what size I made. I think I did a 4 bust and waist, and then went up to a 6 in the hip, and I can get them on. And the other thing with this pattern as well is that in the pattern she just does a little facing, which is what you can see out of the denim here for around the bodice. But I knew that that would really annoy me, because I thought whenever I'm oiking these on, every time you go to the toilet, then the facing is going to flip out, and because of where it sits, I'm going to be like this trying to get it to sit back in, and I knew that would really annoy me. So I decided to draft my own full lining for the bodice, which is exactly what I did. If you're interested in me doing a separate little tutorial on how to do that, I can do one. Just let me know in the comments below. It's really simple, really straightforward, but I used the facing pieces and the bodice piece of the top to create a full lining to attach to the facing, and the lining that I used is just a really lovely piece of cotton lawn that I had as a remnant from making my Nina Q dress a couple of summers ago. I still had this bit of remnant in my stash, which was a cotton lawn from the textile centre. It worked really well. I just hand stitched it to the waist line inside, so now it means that there's no risk of anything flipping out. I will be honest, I love these dungarees. I was worried when I cut them out, and when I was making them, I really worried that this style would not suit me and not do me any favors. But actually, when they're made and worn, I really like them. Do wear them with a belt. The pattern instructions do give you a pattern piece for a belt to make out the self fabric, but I didn't want to make a belt out of the denim. I thought that would probably be just a bit too much. So I just wear these with a ready to wear belt, and they're really comfortable, and I actually really like them. I will say, fit wise, you know, they're true to size. The instructions, as always with Tilly, are very, very detailed and self-explanatory. I do wish, I know Tilly writes for beginners, which is fantastic. You know, we want to encourage people to sew, and the best way to do that is to write very clear instructions, which Tilly is renowned for. But I would say, you know, even us more experienced sewers do sometimes want to sew Tilly patterns, and I find it, I'll be honest, I find it really frustrating having to read through reams and reams and reams of instructions to find the actual bits that I need, if that makes sense. So I do wish that what she would do is the detailed set of instructions, but also just bullet point the main key steps for those of us that are more experienced, that don't want to have to trawl through all that to be able to put together a new pattern that she's released. So that's my thoughts on it. And in addition to that, I do think, I know the premise of this book, Make It Simple, is about simple garments with, you know, very few fastenings that you can just whip up really quickly. But I also think, you know, I think it was a little bit of a shortcut just having a facing for the bodice. And I think a fully lined bodice is still reasonable for beginners to be able to do. It's not difficult, and I think with this pattern gives you a much better finish. So I do think that would have been better, but as I say, I've done my own and that's fine. So that's my last make for April. So yeah, all in all, I got loads done, and most of them were wins. There was a couple of fails in there altogether. If you haven't seen part 1 already, I will link to it down below so you can go and take a look at the separates that I made. But yeah, I think lockdown has made me very, very prolific with sewing in April, and I'm really pleased to get some new makes in my wardrobe that are wearable and that I enjoy wearing. So anyway, let me know what you think of my makes for April, if there's any that are your favourites there, any standouts for you. So I will leave it there, I think, but I'll be back with you really soon. So take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye!